This is the Go Radio Business Show.
Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Willie. How are you?
I'm fine. Well, unfortunately, it's not the sunny Gorbals today, but it probably is where you are.
Well, I'm coming from sunnier climes. I'm sorry I'm not in the studio with you this morning, but you see, Go Radio Business never sleeps. We even do this while we're on holiday.
That's why we're a global radio station. Well, can we start off by getting our digs in right away? I see that we were both right that Mr. Elon Musk would not last with Mr. Trump.
Well, Willie, probably, I think we both agreed he wouldn't last, but he's lasted 5 months, which is probably longer than either of us thought he would.
Yeah.
And he started off by saying he was going to save the US government $2 trillion. That's a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
An in-depth report by the Financial Times says that he has identified 175 billion of savings. So, you know, has it been a success? I think only time will tell.
Yeah.
He started to criticise Trump, Willie.
Yeah.
And as you know, Trump's not a man who takes criticism
No.
well.
No.
So I think if you start to criticise the Donald, there's only one door you're going out,
Yeah.
or maybe a window.
I think it's fair to say that he's been driven out of Dodge.
Oh, good line, Willie. Good line. You should do this for a living, Willie.
But I think, see, to be fair, whatever he's done in any government and whatever they've done, anybody that saves 175 million, you need to say that his 5-month tenure has been a success.
I would say so. I think everybody has a go at him, but he was willing to give it a go, Willie.
Yeah.
He put his heart and soul into it, as he does everything. And let's face it, to the detriment of Tesla. I mean, Tesla's sales in Europe are plummeting, Willie.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to get back in there.
Yeah.
And it's not as if he's looking for a job. He's got Starlink, he's got the rockets, he's got Neuralink, he's got Tesla, he's got X. I mean, he's a busy man.
Yeah, I just wonder what, you know, we've said that about him, no, he's a flawed genius, but I hope that Donald Trump doesn't turn on him the way he does with other people who have been friends in the past, because I see this week that that's the third SpaceX rocket in a row where it's been aborted or it's malfunctioned. And I hope there's talk already about NASA taking the contract and giving it to one of his I think it's actually Jeff Bezos. So I hope it's not that kind of revenge stuff that Donald is well known for that kicks in now.
Yeah, well, he's a vindictive man, Willie,
Yeah.
And but he would need to watch with Musk.
Yes.
Musk probably got the measure of him, but he is the president of the United States, unbelievably. So I woke up this morning early and I read that a US court has ruled that Trump's tariffs are illegal, Willie.
Yes.
How does all this work?
Well, if it's the same as the way they're ruling for to bring back the unfortunate gentleman who'd been deported, who shouldn't have been deported, but he just doesn't care about it and doesn't bother. So it'll be interesting to see if he just rides roughshod over this ruling as well. But hopefully that the judge's ruling will stand and we can get back to a bit of normality.
Because, I mean, this has huge implications for global trade. I mean, the Go Radio Business viewers and listeners might be thinking, well, what's that got to do with my business?
Yeah.
But it does, because it puts the prices up. And when businesses in Scotland are having to deal with national insurance increases, energy, etc., having their supply chain putting the prices up is another blow. So, I mean, Trump's been using these things called executive orders. I think he's did more than any other president in history. And all that does, Willie, is it circumvents Congress.
Yes.
So he doesn't need to go for a vote.
Yeah.
But there's judges who have ruled this is against the law and we're not having it. So let's see who wins, Willie.
So Tom, on that and about the cost of living, as you were saying there, I seen an interesting thing this week. We have been talking for many weeks now about, you know, how we have to come up with a solution. It's the people in the middle who are suffering the most, right? You know, we talk about you know, tax the rich, feed the poor. But that 60% in the middle are finding the pinch more than anything. And I seen a young lady on the TV this week who works hard. She's a single mum. She's got 3 kids. This was amazing for me. She earns £45,000 a year. But because she's a single mum, she is entitled to benefits, universal credit, and she gets universal credit. I think it said I think it was £3,000, right, a month.
A month,
right? A month, right? So, sorry, that might have been a year, right? But what she said is the point she was making is that she clears £2,800 a month. Then she gets her £300 universal credit, and then she gets a bit of child allowance of £240, right? So here's a lady with nearly £50,000 of income, and she laid out in detail her finances. Her kids' nursery costs £2,800 a month.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And so by the time she pays all her bills, she pays her mortgage, she pays everything else, right? And I don't know if she's in a rented flat with her mortgage, but it costs her £2,000 a month, her house costs. She breaks even every month. Right.
Wow. I mean, we need to get it so that work pays, Willie. It's a simple phrase, but if you're a hard-working mum, 3 kids, then surely to goodness you've got to be in a better position than that, just scraping through.
I think it must be nigh impossible for the people in that band and what you used to call the middle class. I think it must be nigh impossible for them to save at the moment.
Well, serious stuff, but I mean, just that simple phrase, make work pay.
Yes.
That's what I would say, Willie.
100%.
But I mean, that's down to the government's taxation policy.
What would you like to talk about?
So I think there's some, we always talk about, you know, construction, house building can get Scotland moving, move the economy. And the UK government has got, they've got a different problem on immigration, Willie, than we do up in Scotland. And therefore, I think they're coming out with some difficult plans that affect Scotland. One of them now is about raising the qualification standards for foreign construction workers. Therefore, they're down in Westminster, they're getting a lot of heat, especially from Nigel Farage, about stopping the boats and all the rest of it. But this is not to do with that. This is about skilled labour, because we don't have enough skilled labour in our own country, Willie.
Yep.
And therefore, there was something come out from one of the trades this week saying that if the UK goes ahead with this plan, this will suck the qualified workers from Scotland down south, and it will leave Scotland with not enough skilled workers.
Yeah.
So, you know more about this than me. From your point of view, we both agree we need to get house building going.
Yeah.
But part of that is the skills agenda, Willie. You've always said about apprentices. Yeah. What would you like to see to get Scotland getting our own skills ready?
Yeah, I think this is where sometimes, the devolution and devolved powers, where things get a wee bit askewed. And I think that the UK will look at changing things that affect us. But what you've just described is exactly what happened in the 60s and 70s, right? In the property boom, the building boom in London, thousands upon thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of young people who were well trained left to go down to England to make more money, and who can blame them for that? What we have to do in Scotland, because in pro rata, our housing crisis is bigger than theirs. So what we have to do is come up with a system, and I see that the government have announced stuff this week, apprenticeships and a wee bit more adult learning, adult apprenticeships. I think that we have to have a plan. I've certainly got a plan. We're looking at getting ex-forces personnel who are coming out after being 10 or 15 years in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and reskilling them into being electricians, plumbers, joiners, whatever. So we've got a plan, but we need a kind of holistic plan, maybe working through the best that the government set up out at Hamilton. Maybe we could do something, but it's certainly a big worry. If we have a further drain on technical qualified people leaving to go to England, our housing problem is only going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easy to say, build, baby, build.
Yeah.
Very easy to say that, but it's got to be coordinated, Willie. We've got to have the planning, we've got to have the skills, we've got to have the supply chain.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of coordination here,
Mhm.
which, frankly, we've not been very good at so
No.
far.
No, the lack of investment, especially in building trades, over the past 30, 40 years is now coming back to bite us big time. And if we don't do something about it very quickly, we won't be afford to build new houses.
Yeah. Something that caught my eye this week, Willie, which is kind of interesting, was that a guy that I believe, Tony Bloom,
Yeah.
who's the owner of Brighton Football Club in the Premiership, has bought a stake in Hearts
Yes.
up here, 10 million for 29%.
Yeah.
Now, you were telling me off camera about the background of Tony Bloom and how he uses data in his football and his business. So what do you think he's thinking about taking 29% of Hearts? Where does that fit into the master plan?
Well, the first thing, you're right, I do know Tony, but I've got to say, I was absolutely astounded when I read this. I could not believe that Tony's investment in Hearts only valued Hearts at £30 million. Here's a football club that sells out every week. They've got one of the best fan bases, also loyal fan bases. I think what the fans done there when Hearts were in trouble, they set up the Fans Trust. I think they've been putting I don't know, it was like £15,000 a week in and still doing it, whatever it may be. That was during Anne Budgie's takeover, where they all stepped up to the plate and still do it to this day. But I was astounded to hear you could buy 30% of Hearts for £10 million. Right, astounded. But to talk about Tony, obviously, you know a bit about it, but Tony is a data man, and he set his whole business up, in the gambling industry, where they look at data every single second of the day, 24 hours a day, looking at betting all over the world, and it's all about using the data to get an edge. Right, so actually selling data to big gamblers to see if it can help them get the edge. And Tony's been very, very successful. I mean, he was a big gambler himself, but he obviously knew what he was doing. He's been very, very successful. And the job that he's done, he's taken data and he's taken the whole Moneyball thing that was used in baseball in the States, and he's applied that to Brighton, which is his club. He loves Brighton. He was brought up there. And what he's done at Brighton is unbelievable. And I don't think that anybody in the world has created a setup where Moneyball is really working the way that they buy and trade players at Brighton. Phenomenal. They buy players for £500,000 and sell them for 69 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so they find these players, Casida, McAllister, they dig up all these guys. They've got tentacles all around the world, and now he's bought a few clubs. He's bought a club in Belgium. He's obviously bought any Hearts, and he owns Brighton. So he's setting this whole thing up where he can cross-feed his clubs. I see today there was a young player they had in loan from Union St Gallen, which he also owns, and now he's signed for Hearts. So that whole moving your assets about across your various clubs and various territories. But I've got no doubt, and what I would say to the Hearts fans, it might look like Tony has bought a third of the club cheap, but I'll tell you, I think that he will be quite happy with his involvement with the club in years to come.
Wow, really? And then going to the other side of the capital, to Easter Road, to Hibs, I saw a very nice fitting tribute to Sir Tom Farmer, who sadly passed.
Yeah.
And Sir Tom, as most of the viewers and listeners will know, rescued Hibs. Would that be a fair
Oh,
thing to
definitely,
say?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had a big recognition of that at Easter Road, and there was thousands upon thousands of people turned out as a nice, a very fitting tribute to Sir Tom. Yeah,
and I think while we're on that, I think that we should pay tribute big time to the effect that Sir Tom has had on Scottish business. The things way back in the day when you were starting, the very first Entrepreneurial Exchange event I went to, he was there, you were there. I think Richard Branson was there. And I think that, what he's done to build up a business selling tyres into £1 billion business and sell it, And I think, again, when you mentioned Hibs, I didn't know when I was speaking to him years and years ago about his involvement in Hibs, I didn't know that his grandfather started Hibs.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I didn't know that. So, yeah, what a job that they'd done, because Hibs had about 3 or 4 different owners over a very short period of time. And when Tom came in with Rod Petrie, I think that that they stabilised Hibs, and Hibs it is today what it is today because of Tom stepping in and saving the club. So it's a real shame that he's passed away, but his legacy will live on for a long time.
Well, very fond memories of Tom.
Yep.
So a nice fitting tribute there. I was also very encouraged because, as you and I know, investing in early stage businesses is the riskiest part for any investor, and it's the hardest part for any business to raise finance, Willie. But Scotland has got some good investors here. It's called the Angel Network.
Yes.
And I'm just going to read this because I was stunned by this. And we're continuing in Scotland to be among the best in the world. Despite the turbulent times, investment over the last 12 months from angel groups grew from 100 million to over 106 million. Angel Capital Scotland, who represents the angel syndicates, noted the bedrock role these investors play, with the vast majority of funds going into early stage. So this is where Scottish Edge plays. I know you were at Scottish Edge last week. And as I say, this is absolutely essential for any economy, but it's the most risky. And these angel investors do a brilliant job, and it's brilliant that Scotland's right up there. Yeah.
It's amazing, yeah, it's great, but I just love to see the matrix for working out how we're world leading. I would just like to see that. But great, great story. And on that, Tom, somebody we've had in the show, with the chief exec of Glasgow Gateway on.
Yeah.
Some news this week where they're going to, over 100 hectares of land, which has been mostly derelict with our older buildings on it now, is going to be rejuvenated and regenerated in the East End of Glasgow. So this is an amazing, it's talking about 500 million of investment, hotels, offices, houses, the whole redevelopment of Shawfield, which is 5 minutes from where we are here in the Gorbals, is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And Willie, is this a public body? Is this a government body?
It's a kind of arm's length regeneration body, Glasgow Council, Scottish Enterprise, Scottish Government, but we'd have to say Gateway over the past 20 years and still now going forward has been a great blueprint for how you should regenerate.
Yeah, I remember. Is it the same chief exec? Well,
yeah. Well, Ian Manson moved on, but the lad we had on the show, right? Forgive me, I can't remember his name, but I'll remember it for next week. But the leadership at Clyde Gateway have to be applauded for what they've done in the East End of Glasgow.
And do they use the private sector for construction? Do they give out contracts?
Yes. Yeah. So lots of SMEs do well at working. I mean, the job that they've done in building new tenemented houses all around the Brigton, Kilmarnock area. When I drive by there every day, it's like wonderful seeing what's happening. For where it used to be, seeing the new police headquarters there and everything else that, the new buildings, the new office blocks that have been built. Yeah, fantastic regeneration project. So more power at their elbow. Maybe we should get them back on the show to talk about it, because I think that's a big enough scheme that it's merited.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Just to finish up this section, Willie, I was a place close to my heart, Prestwick Airport. I went through it this week, and it was great to see it busy. And they were telling me they're a lot busier this year than last. They've got Ryanair flying to more destinations, but they've also got the freight coming from Hong Kong, China, and hopefully it's not quite done yet, but when they bring the goods in from Hong Kong, China, they're going to go fly back with Scottish produce, whiskey, salmon, shellfish, etc.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a big military airport now as well. So I've never saw Prestwick as busy, and it was great to see. I don't know what's happening if the government are trying to sell it, but I think that's one occasion where government ownership was the right thing to do.
Yeah. So just to a wee recap, last week we talked about housing again, and hopefully people were listening. I would have to say that I was invited through this week. I had a meeting with the operational board of the SNIB Bank, David Ritchie and his team, and I was very encouraged by that their willingness as well to help in any way they can, and some of the things that we're talking about, especially around housing. But also yesterday I had a meeting with the Deputy First Minister and with the Cabinet Minister Shirley-Ann Somerville, and I'd have to say that both Kate Forbes and Shirley-Ann were very forthright in their views about something has to be done and we want to get on it. So they believe that there's a crisis and they want to do something about it. But I just have to say that I know sometimes we criticise. I was very encouraged that they found the time to meet with me, and also very encouraged by what they had to say. So watch this space, and hopefully over the next weeks and months we can maybe have something positive. We'll try to do something that's going to try and help solve the housing crisis in Scotland.
Willie, I think, yes, we can be critical, but only when it's justified. And if the government do something good, we're the first to say, well done, thank you, let's go on with it.
Yeah.
So I'm encouraged by that, Willie. So we will end on that high note.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tom.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.
Colin, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
So just for the listeners and the viewers, today we've got Colin Frame, who's the MD of Stellar Omada. Thank you for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. So the format is, over to you. Tell us a wee bit about yourself, the early days, any entrepreneurial geniuses before you, father, grandfather, grandmother, anything like that, and tell us your story.
Okay, so Colin Frame, from pretty humble beginnings. Lived down in a place called Biggar. London's big, but Biggar's bigger. Grew up there all my life. My mum and dad were haulage contractors, as was my granddad and his kind of older family. So we kind of ran with lorries. We'd done a little bit around kind of motor racing, done kind of loads of stuff, just kind of the farming kind of area. That's what it is. Didn't grow up playing football, funnily enough. Grew up playing rugby. And it was a kind of very, very benign kind of upbringing. So when you ask about entrepreneurial spark, I think the only entrepreneurial spark that I would always suggest that we had was ability to work hard. And I actually still hold to that same theory today, that a lot of the guys that we brought through from Biggar actually have always been a lot more hardworking than anyone else. And it's probably in the genes, and it's maybe you want to work a lot harder than maybe some others.
Yeah, I think rural communities do that. You've got to adapt, and you have to be a jack of all trades. But I'm amazing that you mentioned a bit about the racing there.
Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of people, the fantastic, motor racing drivers we've had, all come for the country.
I know. Colin McRae actually was about 10 minutes from where I grew up.
Yeah.
So having him around was obviously a massive kind of influence for the local community, and it was stock cars we were into.
Yeah.
And we had to travel all the way to Cowdenbeath every week, and a lot of people around about didn't actually know it even existed.
Yeah.
But to have been involved in that since 10 years old, it was part of my kind of understanding how things work, understanding the kind of basics of how you interact with people. Going to Fife, obviously, it was a different language up there, so you got quickly used to kind of how to interact with different people.
Aye. So obviously it's a bit of a journey from Biggar to Cowdenbeath, right? And you're getting that experience. But I think probably did that also install a kind of wee bit more competitive edge in you?
Aye, I think I've got a brother as well. He's 2 years younger. We were always really competitive, still are.
Yeah.
I'm now 38 years old, and I went racing a couple of years ago, and I was there to win. I wasn't there to take part, and it's one of these things that never really leaves you. And I think a lot of what we do in Stellar as well is all around being a little bit more competitive. So when we first set out, we were there to kind of tackle the big guys, and we were there to tackle being better than anyone else. And it's something I still hold on to today, is everything we do must be better than everyone else.
Brilliant, brilliant. So tell us a wee bit about the journey from finishing your education then to going into the workplace.
So interesting one. So I left school just after my 17th birthday. Yeah. So when I was able to drive, I left school. So I think I was technically in 5th year when I left. Didn't go to university, didn't go to college. Spent a week as a joiner, spent a week as a a mechanic, done a little bit of odds and sods, and then I was offered a really exciting opportunity to get involved at the Royal Bank of Scotland. So being kind of 17, going into the Royal Bank, traditionally you would have had some kind of degree or some kind of prior education that would have allowed you. It was all fresh to me. I didn't know anything about it, but I was given a massive opportunity from a gentleman called Benny, and I kind of just used that as an opportunity to change my life. Kind of my only objective when I started in the bank was just to learn as much as I could, take advantage of everything that I could get into, and spend a lot of time just developing myself as well.
Yeah. So what was the name of the man at the bank that helped you?
Benny Corr,
Aye.
his name, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's from Glasgow actually.
Yeah.
He's from Govan. So he was a really nice guy. He gave me my first start, and he was with me for a lot of the journey as well. So getting somebody to kind of mentor you was a big part of kind of how I learned.
So what were you doing in the bank?
So I joined, you remember back in 2003 there was offset mortgages. So they're all based on savings being kind of used to then offset your percentage of interest on your mortgage. So offset mortgages was bought by Royal Bank. They taken over the One account, which was originally the Virgin One account. So my first job was to test the new mortgage platform, which we'd bought from the One account. So first thing I had to do was book a flight to Norwich. And of course I'd been on holidays and everything else, but I'd very rarely travelled on my own. So first job was to go down to Norwich, find hotels, find the best flights for our staff in Royal Bank, and then get us there every week to then test the new platform that had just been built. So testing was the first job I ever done, and it's something I still do now, and it's one I'm really passionate about in the banks as well with Stellar. But being part of the test team and the test capability and in there meant that we had to check that everything that was supposed to worked for customers.
This is testing systems.
Testing software, I should say that. So it was testing the technology software, testing a bit of infrastructure, and then eventually testing the processes worked in branches. So this is back when there was branches. My first kind of real life examples when I had to go into the branches and then show everybody, I was only 17, spotty teenager, show everybody how the new system worked, and I had to train like 20 different branches in Birmingham. So I've seen all kinds of sites down in Birmingham in my first job.
Right. And how long were you in the bank?
So in the bank, a total of 16 years.
Wow.
So on and off. So I was privileged to be part of the Fred Goodwin era, and a lot of people will probably talk ill of Fred, but he built the bank at the same time as I joined the bank, and taking it to all kinds of heights. So we were getting our 10% bonuses, we were getting our profit share every year, we were getting a really good kind of income stream, and it was also a really good place to work. So it was one of the best, I would suggest, in the kind of the 2000s. The Royal Bank and similar banks were a really good place to learn. They were a good place to build a career. And I was fortunate enough to be selected to go and be part of a lot of the big integrations. So when Royal Bank brought on Ulster Bank, I was part of that. I was part of then the kind of take on of some of the kind of smaller periphery banks. And then the kind of big one in 2009 that caused the challenge with the banks was ABN AMRO.
Yeah.
So I was flown over to Amsterdam, told to get on with it, met a lot of really good people over there, and spent a bit of time working with the Dutch as well.
Yeah.
So it was good place to be.
And that must have been to be part of that story, and everything that's been written about that story there. You must reflect back on that and think, well, you know, what could have happened.
Yeah, I mean, we were. There's a lot of kind of water under the bridge now about Barclays could have bought it, and it could have been a totally different game and everything else. And a lot of me feels sad about Royal Bank because it's never no longer called Royal Bank. But it was as the Royal Bank of Scotland. It was a real privilege to have it in Scotland, and I still work a lot with the NatWest group now. But the kind of the building of ABN AMRO into Royal Bank, or the integration of it, it was a really well run and delivered programme. But the consequence of the money was just horrific. I was sitting in a place called Pajuvelvek in Amsterdam when the boards went down to 10 pence and then 9 pence, and it was like, and this was share prices that were at 20 odd pounds. So people crying. It was really horrific. So
I had a friend of mine, as for a wedding present, he bought his wife £1 million of shares in RBS. The time they get back for their honeymoon, it was worth 86 grand. Right. So it's, but veering away from that, right? So, you're what, 33, you're still in the bank around about that age, and you've decided. What made you think
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
going to jump?
when I
Was it
le-
a crash?
when I came back from Amsterdam, I actually left Royal Bank as part of the TPF, so Tesco Personal Finance, as it was
Yeah.
previously known, it's now
Yeah.
Tesco Bank. I joined there for 18 months. But I think
Benny Higgins.
that was Benny Higgins, that's right.
Benny was me. We were at school together.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Benny, I tell you, there's not many better people than Benny to present a
Yes.
plan and a vision and a journey.
Yes.
So I learned a lot. He actually mentored me a couple of times when he was in Royal Bank before.
Get a few Robbie Burns phrases in there in the presentation.
It's just that's one of the most super bright guys I've ever met.
Ah, he's a good guy. Benny.
Talks like different languages and
Hollywood educated, you know what I mean? That's what we do.
aye, again, kind of humble upbringings as well. He's a really good guy.
Going for Tory Glen, yeah.
Yeah. So, but Benny taking TPF, and there's a funny story actually. When I met Benny in the reception at Haymarket Yard where we were based one day when there was about a foot of snow. He was one of the only people there, and he said, "Where did you come from, son?" I said, "Came from Biggar." He went, "If you can fucking come from Biggar, these people that live in Edinburgh can get here." It was one of those comedy moments.
Aye.
But no, I rejoined Royal Bank after being at Tesco for I think it was 18 months, 19 months. Went back to Royal Bank and then spent most of the next kind of 6 years then taking the bank to bits, so selling off parts. So we worked with Santander for a while, worked with Williams and Glyn as we tried to build the bank there, and yeah, spent a good bit of time in all technology programs, bit of retail programs, and yeah.
Right, so you've missed a big bit out here. How does a guy who gets heavily involved in programs and systems when you've never done any education in that in your life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I describe this to some of the kids that ask me that same question now as my education was in the bank.
Right.
So my education was, so my post-school education was learning about mortgages, learning about check clearing, learning about faster payments. I was really fortunate to be part of a lot of these kind of projects and programs, but I just used it as an opportunity to sponge it all in and take that knowledge. And that's what I use today.
Yeah.
So the whole business is built around the work that I've done over the first kind of 20 years of my life.
Right.
And that's what we leverage. And it's experience that, unfortunately, there's probably a gap in generations. So a lot of the people I worked with were all 50s, 60s. And I brought a few of them back from retirement over the years, and then they've retired again. But I was privileged to be part of a lot of older people and learned a lot from them. Right. And there's a definite gap in the technology industry and probably the banking sector where there's kind of 20 years of probably lack of talent.
Right. So what made you've been in the bank now nearly 2 decades, and what was it made you say, you know what, I'm going to try something completely different now. I'm going to go from being safe in this, I'm getting my wages every month, I'm going to jump here full in and become an entrepreneur?
I tried it a couple of times first.
All right.
And I'm not ashamed to say that I tried it twice, tried to run my own business twice and failed.
Right.
Well, it didn't fail. There was no debt. There was no massive challenges, but it just didn't take off. And every time that happened, it gave me a chance through the kind of 2012 to 2016 time. Mm-hmm. It gave me a chance to just really work out what I needed to do to make it work. Right. And 2017, 2018 comes, and it was just the right time. Yeah. I built a really good structure around me and around kind of what the company was going to become. And used it to leverage first contract, used it to then leverage really making a dent in kind of some of the kind of projects and programs that were failing. Yeah. So there's a lot of big technology white elephants, if that's the right term, where there's a lot of money being spent and not a lot delivered or failed. So our job was to really go in and recover and be the Ghostbusters, if you like. Yeah. And that was what we kind of built out from. Yeah. So first big programme, I actually moved to Northampton of all places. Watched the Cobblers a couple of times when I was down there, and spent kind of 3 good years of my life down there. Moved the whole family down, and really invested my time and energy in a big programme that was failing down there. And lived in the office at one point. It was 24 hours a day. Wow. And just made it work. And I had a hugely supportive team. A lot of the guys that I worked with, still really good friends with today, and a number of them have retired. Yeah. But they helped me build Stellar in the early days, and that was it's a real building a foundation to get up and onto. It was a big investment for us for getting Stellar off the ground.
And was Northampton one big project?
A massive programme,
okay.
£170 million programme.
So when that was over, is that when you decided to come back home?
Aye, when it was over.
So were you coming back here and basically after a project over, like kind of starting afresh?
Yeah, the good news with the work that we done in Northampton was there was a requirement for us to be there long term as well. So we left a team in place, and then I personally then moved on to the next programme, and then the next programme. And every time we built the programmes out, we started to deliver common services. So we delivered more testing, our favourite subject. We delivered then kind of programme recovery, programme delivery, and transformational stuff. And then also then kind of business analysis and some of the real technical skills that I think are lacking in today's world.
Right. So when exactly did you set up Stellar in Scotland?
In Scotland, just before COVID.
Right.
So I moved back 2020,
Right.
January to February time, 2020.
Okay, and that was you starting afresh, coming here, looking for projects, looking for work?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I had the network. I already had the network. I knew most of the people up here.
Yeah.
And gave it the kind of opportunity to start to flourish.
Yeah. So if you're allowed to tell us, who would your customers be?
So we've got a lot of customers in the banking sector. So NatWest, Lloyds, Barclays, HSBC, all the big banks.
Yeah.
We also support quite a lot of the smaller banks as well. So some of the smaller banks are trying to get off the ground. So through the late 2000s, you had a lot of new banks emerging.
Yeah.
So we support a lot of those as well. And then we've also got moved into the lifestyle and pension world as well.
Yeah.
So that's what I invest all my time and energy in just now.
Right.
So I'm deep in pensions, and it's a new world for us, but it's very similar to financial services and banking. And it's, again, lots of opportunity to kind of really change the way things are done.
And do they bring you in like a consultant to test their systems?
Aye,
Right.
that's the kind of summary.
So you're an external audit?
Well, two things I don't like, consultants and audit.
Right.
So I wouldn't ever describe us as consultants. We like to break the mould.
Yeah.
Consultants usually come in, take your watch off you and tell you the time.
Yeah.
What we want to do is go in, understand the problem, fix it, and then live with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you go in, you might be called into a new client for to fix something, they're impressed with what you do, and that just leads to other things.
Spot on.
Yeah. And so what size is the business today?
So 20 million revenue.
Yeah.
So we're on track for just over 20 million this year. I'm hoping to do 23.
Yeah.
We're on 20 million this year. We've got 200 employees. So
Right.
and then we've got a lot of kind of really cool things happening. So we split the company in 2023 into kind of three real kind of chunks. We've got Stellar Omada, which is the real core services delivery work that we do. We've now built out a recruitment company. So we built out Stellar Connect, which is our kind of recruitment business that's now furnishing Stellar, because we've always got a people churn, there's always a movement, but also then looking to build new clients and recruit for other clients.
Is that recruitment in the IT space?
Aye, IT space most of the time.
Yeah.
We're not interested in going to retail or anything like that yet.
No.
Maybe.
No, don't trust me.
Aye. I mean, it's our sweet spot. I've got a lot of other things that I've done over the last maybe 10 years that I regret doing, because it just takes your energy. So focus on what you know, focus on what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then we've got Stellar Elevate as well, which is about, it's a really personal one actually, Elevate. It's about us giving back.
Yeah.
So we work closely with Hearts on this. We work closely with other football clubs now as well, and providing an education, a technology education for kids between kind of 10 and 16-year-old, and allow them an opportunity through our skills learning to kind of experience it firsthand, and it helps them then educate themselves. And the reason for it is somebody gave me a chance one day.
Right. So when you say giving back, is this you do this kind of like charity work?
It's not really interesting subject, charity, whether we can get some tax advantages, but it's not technically a charity. It's a business for us that allows us to roll out a training program for cohorts of kids coming through school, coming out of university, and coming out of college as well. So it's about furnishing them with an opportunity, and then if they want to join Stellar, there's also then opportunity there as well. And if the best thing they could do is go on to run the company, right? It's in our interest to really give back and provide a foothold for the next generation as well.
Right. Okay. And what's the plans for world domination? Where do you think the company can go in the next 5 years?
So we've got a very clear 5-year plan, 100 million revenue.
Yeah.
So but the interesting thing is,
That's some plan.
I know. So when we hit 2022, we done 16.3 million revenue,
Right.
and I wouldn't say, well, we have plateaued.
Yeah.
We've plateaued over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But when we hit 16.3 million, I and a couple of people built it to that.
Yeah.
We've spent the last probably 2.5 years now investing in building the management team out. We've been a lot of learnings in that. There's also been a lot of challenges. So it's building that management team out and really allowing us to then accelerate beyond this year. So
a big part of that management team must be a new business development team to get to 100 million.
Well, biz dev was me.
Yes.
So biz dev was 100% me and some of the guys that were on client site all the time. So yeah, building that out that's a tough one. We've hired and failed a couple of times.
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that. But that's a huge expansion, goal there. So good luck with that. So you mentioned Hearts.
Yeah.
And obviously you're a sponsor of Hearts. So tell us a wee bit. Obviously you're wearing the badge. You must be a Jambo.
We'll maybe come back to that one. But I'm a massive fan of Hearts. I got involved actually just when I came back to Edinburgh 2020.
Yeah.
Met with Gary Locke, who coincidentally 20 years prior had gave me an award at an awards night when he was a professional footballer, and it was kind of a bit of sentimental kind of reach out to Gary, and off the back of reaching out to Gary, I spent a bit of time at Tynecastle with him, talking about kind of what they do. At that point, I met Anne Budge, Anne Park, and a number of the guys that had came over and were now in the process of recovering the club.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't describe it as a sponsorship deal. It's really a massive partnership for us, because what we do behind the scenes with Hearts, and this is actually a Big Hearts badge, Big Hearts charity. It's all about kind of different charitable give-backs in the stadium as well. So there's a lot around dementia, Alzheimer's, and kind of challenges that we see in football. A lot around probably vulnerable young adults, and a lot about kind of supporting them with football as the kind of reason. So do a lot with the charity as well. And then we do a lot with within the stadium itself. So we've got our own office in the stadium. We've also got the innovation centre in the stadium that we support Hearts with, which is all about using the stadium as a reason for people to come, learn, develop, understand things. And it's quite cool. It's pretty cool to be involved.
Well, by coincidence, earlier in the show, me and Tom were talking about Tony Bloom's investment in Hearts.
Aye.
So you being a tech guy, Tony disguised himself as a tech guy. What do you think of the investment?
I think it's a fantastic move.
Yeah.
Genuinely do. I think what Tony's done through Brighton and through the other structures in the European League, it's fantastic. To replicate that at Hearts will be amazing.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely a long way to go, but the foundations are being laid perfectly.
Yeah, brilliant. Colin, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Another great story, and I wish you all the best. And I've got to keep an eye on you to see about that growth period over the next 5 years, but good luck.
No, thank you very much. Great to be here.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.
Get a great guest on the show this week on the board you can't afford. We've got Tracy Collins, who's a co-founder of MRG. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, great to have you on. So, in this week's segment of the show, we get on a guest, we get them to tell us a wee bit of themselves, a bit about their business, and then ask the question to the board that you can't afford.
Okay.
So tell us a wee bit about yourself.
So I've been in recruitment nearly 20 years next year, and about 7 and a bit years ago decided to take the leap and start up ourselves.
Right.
With my co-founder Ian. We actually went to high school together. Hadn't seen each other for about 15 years, randomly bumped into each other in Glasgow. I was in recruitment at the time, got my new job, and then I started recruiting for his business.
Right.
Remained friends. And then we both joined the same business in recruitment together, and then eventually co-founded MRG in Glasgow.
So did that all come about having a coffee or a drink, say, why don't we go and do this ourselves?
No, it was totally random. I was walking up West George Street, he was walking down, we're like, God, I've not seen you for years. And then it all kind of went from there. We worked in a couple of companies together, and then decided, look, we could do this ourselves. Like, why have we not took the leap of faith? And then we thought, let's go for it. But probably wasn't as simple as that. Ian's got a young family. I had a young family at the time, and we didn't have any investors, backers, nothing like that. So we thought, right, we've got 3 months. We both had 3 months, wages in the bank. So we had 3 months to make it work. We started off in a little office in my dad's business. He's a welder, fabricator. He's got a business in Cumbernauld. So the two of us were stuck in a wee room, and all you could hear all day was like grinding and welding and guys shouting. And I'm like, oh God, right.
What were the customers think?
Keep going, keep going, keep going. But it's the best thing ever.
So this is in 2018?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we specialised in international recruitment. So nothing in the UK, all Middle East, Asia, America, all offshore workers.
In certain sectors, all
Yeah, so it was energy, all offshore.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky that we got a client on, and we'll be forever grateful to him. He was the CEO of a big oil and gas company, but it was actually from Denniston.
Amazing.
So straight away when we spoke to him, we just had that connection, and we helped him crew up a number of different rigs. So that really propelled us the first year. We did better than we ever thought. Then obviously COVID hit.
Yeah.
All our guys were international.
Wow.
So overnight we went from up here to completely decimated.
Wow.
People couldn't travel. All the countries changed from red to amber to green within hours. So we had guys set up to go out, and then all of a sudden it was like, no, nobody can travel. So we were like, what do we do now? What do we do? But we ploughed along. Obviously, you know yourself, no directors or businesses get any support from the government during that time. So we were fortunate enough that we hadn't spent any money that we'd made in year one. I'm lucky that I treat the business finances separate to my own personal, because we would have been
In trouble?
would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
But we got through it. We hired, we grew, and we had our first employee, Lisa, who's still with us today. She's amazing. And then after that, we were like, we're never going to be in that position again in business. We cannot have all our eggs in one basket. We need to reduce risk. We don't know what's going to happen in the world, countries, political, anything like that. So we need to start mapping out the business and looking at other areas that we can diversify. So we started kind of growing in the UK and opened up a few specialist sectors. We started off with tech. We've got an amazing tech division now. Sales and marketing, finance and accountancy, kind of renewables, energy. Because we thought, if one sector, something happens, we've got the other sectors to back everybody up. And we know just with customer feedback that if it's a big company, they want to come to the one agency. They want to have specialist people that will help with a sales and marketing team, with a technology team, you know, with a FD. They don't want to be going to 10 different agencies and trying to build relationships. They want more of an extension of their business. So it's worked really well for us.
So you started before COVID has came along, basically starting again probably for you in 2022.
Yeah.
So when do you move from the welder's yard into your first offices?
So we were there for a wee while. I think my dad just wanted rid of us because all we did was moan about the noise. He was like, that's my work. I can't tell guys to stop welding, you know. So and I think he just wanted rid of me, to be honest. So we moved into an office literally as soon as we were allowed to, as soon as the bans, because we were like, we need to get in an office. I just feel I like to be in an office environment. I feel as if I'm at work.
Right. So was this in Glasgow?
Glasgow, yes.
Right.
So we moved to Central Chambers, next to Gordon Street.
Yeah.
Lovely office, but the location wasn't the best.
No.
People make Glasgow and all that, but when you've got clients coming in and you go down the stairs and there's a guy sitting topless in a barber's chair cutting his toenails, it's not really the best impression for clients coming in. So we were there for 6 months, and then we've moved round to Buchanan Street, where we are just now. So we've grown the team there to 12, multi-sector, and just recently we have expanded into Aberdeen and Manchester. Aberdeen is kind of energy focused. which is a big thing for us. Aberdeen was always a focus for us, but we just never found the right people to lead that up there for us. And we believe we have that now.
Right. So many staff do you have today?
So we've got 16.
Yeah, fantastic.
16.
No, really from a standing start really in 22.
Yeah.
And being bold enough to come through after COVID and saying, look, we're having a go. That was a wee blip. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what is your question for the board you can't afford?
I think for us, when you go through a massive growth spurt, which we have over the last year or two, how do you maintain that culture, that team? Because when there's like 4 or 5 of you, it's so easy done. You're all in the same office, you get to know each other. But when you're growing and you've got offices throughout the UK, how do you try and keep that team spirit?
Well, I'm probably the right guy to ask this question. Obviously, the culture in our business was a big thing. And when we first expanded, you know, we were crazy. You know, our first office is in Glasgow, our second office is in Melbourne, right? You know, so that's a wee bit of a journey.
Mm-hmm.
But the one bit of advice I gave to everybody that worked for us was the culture and the values of business is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go from city to city, town to town, country to country, continent to continent, things change. People's attitude, maybe to work or whatever, all changes. So the thing that was vital for me and the thing that really worked was that every time I opened in a new office, whether it would be down south or whether it would be in Australia, I took a small core team from my headquarters and I sent them out there. First, in the first year I went to Australia for 60 weeks. Then I went 12 weeks the following year. I wanted to make sure that everyone was right. And then I got people that I really trusted, that understood. I mean, the business in Australia has got the exact culture of the business. But to be fair, I've got a guy that used to be one of our top guys here, runs Australia. I had one of our guys that run America. So the guy in Australia runs Hong Kong, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur. So I know, I can go to bed at night knowing that the culture and the values of the business. So the best tip I could give you is if you can afford that, to have one of your key people who gets it exactly, that to send them to Manchester and send them to Aberdeen, might be just for short term, and let them look at who locally gets it, right? That they, you know, send them. If you think that someone in Aberdeen has got the potential of running that, get them down to Glasgow for a month. And let them really get immersed in the culture, then send them back. And then what you need to do, to be fair, when you cut the umbilical cord, you need to go back and double check that it's there. But through time, you'll no need to do that, because you'll get, I know I never need to do that for my guy in Asia and Australia, because I know, and my guy in the States. So that would be my advice to you.
That's good advice. I think you're starting something from being so small, and it's your baby, isn't it? And it's so hard to try.
So the big worry for you will be is, can I afford to have this business out of this, take someone out of your headquarters to send them there? Is, trust me, you can't afford not to.
No, I agree. That's good advice.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Good luck with the business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye, Tracy.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.
Well, Tom, that was another great show. Another week over. So to all our viewers and listeners, if you're watching it on YouTube or whatever channel that you watch it on, please hit the subscribe button, and we look forward to delivering another wonderful show for you next week.
The Go Radio Business Show with Hunter and Haughey. Hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode.